Yo, what's up guys? This is my first video on my channel. So today I will be playing GTA 5 while I read some Reddit stories for you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys like the video and enjoy. I cheated on a history paper in college, and now the service I paid for is trying to blackmail me at my job. In college, I paid for a history paper to be written for me and paid paper writing services to do it for me. They blackmailed me once already while I was in college, and I paid them. Then they tried to do it again for the last few years, and I kept ignoring them and deleted my old email addresses. 10 years later, they have now somehow found out my work email address and emailed me there again and sent a vague email to our HR VP and another email to my old colleague. Basically, they want money from me again. They did not indicate how much. Last time they got maybe 1 to 2k from me. My company is very large. It's more than 100k employees. So there is a good chance my HR VP will just ignore the initial email. I also think that if the blackmailer does follow up on these threats, then he loses some of his leverage. I know what I did was wrong, and I can try to justify it, but that isn't really relevant to a resolution anymore. The course was a general EAT class. I took it, pass/fail, it had no relevance to the actual major I pursued. However, to play devil's advocate, if there is evidence that I did it once, or I only did it once, then why would someone believe me when I say I never did this for my actual major coursework? I am unsure what to do at this point. Do I come clean and admit that I paid for a paper in college and deal with the university directly? Do I reach out to my HR VP as well? Do I ignore it? Do I pay the blackmail over and over again? I am really scared. I spent the last 12 years working diligently at work to build a strong reputation, and I don't want my past stupid decision to ruin everything for me. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend, male33, over an unfunny prank? Okay, so I, female33, dated John, male33, about 8 years ago. So we were 25-ish. It was almost a year-long relationship, 10 months or so. A week ago was the first time I seen John since, because we were both at a friend's party who was celebrating that friend becoming a father. John got super drunk and decided to tell anyone who would listen to the story of how we broke up. After hearing it, mostly men were telling me I completely overreacted. So here's the story that started our breakup. John was staying at my place that night. I woke up and it was Saturday morning. I went downstairs to make a coffee. I heard him having a shower upstairs and he came down stressed and ready to go to work. I figured out he got confused and thought it was a work day. I didn't say anything until he was putting on his shoes. I was repeatedly asking him, so what day is it? Until he got a bit mad, looked at his smartwatch and said it was Saturday. He was quite mad at me and said it was a bad prank and he will pay me back. The next day we were apart and he texted me, "We need to talk. I'm sorry I got another girl pregnant," to which I replied something along the lines of, "Is this your attempt of a payback prank? Consider it failed." After that, John doubled, tripled and quadrupled down on it. He swore to everything he holds dear that it was true, and he even sent me a clearly fake ultrasound picture. I kept telling him, "Dude, I don't believe you. Stop. You're making this incredibly weird." He did not back down. After a full day of convincing me in vain, I was so weirded out that I told him, "Well, okay, if you're having a baby with this mystery lady, we need to break up." And he was like, "Ha ha ha, my prank worked. Boom, pranked." After this incident, I was too weirded out by him. We broke up a few days later with him being completely unwilling to acknowledge he took it too far and framing it as, "I just needed some more convincing to fall for it." 8 years later, he's clearly still hurt about it, because he was telling everyone and basically doing a poll on who was wrong. Some people were coming up to me and telling me it was just a joke. So am I the a-hole for breaking up with a guy over a bad prank? I always thought I was fine with 50-50. I've been reflecting on something lately, and I'm curious whether anyone else has experienced this or if I'm just reading too much into it. For the longest time, I've always said that I had no problem with 50-50 on dates. I've done it before, never complained about it, and honestly thought people made too big deal out of it. Then I realized something that surprised me. Every single time that I've done the 50-50, it never went past the first date. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, so I never really thought much of it. Recently, though, I started seeing someone my age. We get along really well, and I genuinely like him. Early on, he made it clear that he prefers splitting everything 50-50 when dating. I was completely fine with that because, like I said, I never considered it a deal breaker, although he did pay for the first date. Then something happened that made me stop and think. One day I was having lunch with my mom and texted him asking if he wanted anything since I was already at the restaurant. He said yes, so I bought him some food and brought it with me when we met up. I never expected him to pay me back for it. If anything, if he'd offered, I probably would have said no. After that, we went for drinks, and when the bill came, he immediately suggested splitting it 50-50. We later went somewhere else, and again, we split it. I remember sitting there thinking, why does this suddenly feel unattractive? It wasn't about the money. It wasn't that I wanted free drinks. The drinks probably cost less than the food I already bought him. It was more that after I'd done something nice without thinking twice about it, it never seemed to cross his mind to say, I've got this one. That was the moment it stopped feeling like we're both contributing and started feeling like transactional. What confused me even more is that all of my previous long-term relationships were different. We would split plenty of things in everyday life, especially if we lived together, but when we went out, it usually happened naturally that my partner paid. It wasn't something I demanded or even expected looking back, it was just how those relationships worked. I talked to my mom about it because I couldn't really explain why it bothered me so much. She basically told me I was being superficial, which honestly made me question myself even more. Then I started thinking about all the conversations around invisible labor in the heterosexual relationships. Pregnancy, childbirth, breastfeeding, emotional labor. Relationships are rarely a perfect 50-50 in every aspect. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't actually think that's what I was feeling that night. None of these things were on my mind when we were sitting there splitting the bill. Then I thought about one of my closest friends. She grew up in a very wealthy family and never really had to worry about money. She now is in her first serious relationship, and they split everything 50-50. She is genuinely happy and it clearly works well for them. So now I'm wondering if maybe this isn't about 50-50 at all. Maybe I just don't like this guy as much as I thought I did. Maybe if I met someone I was absolutely crazy about, I wouldn't think twice about splitting everything. Or maybe what actually matters to me isn't who pays, but whether someone naturally thinks, you did something nice for me, let me do something nice for you. I honestly don't know. Has anyone else ever had something like this happen, where you thought you had a very clear opinion about something, but one's experience made you question whether your feelings were actually about the person rather than the principle? Today I effed up by getting blackout drunk on a date and ordering a $1,200 bottle of champagne. This happened almost a year ago and is still embarrassing. I had a date with a woman who I met through a friend. We were going to meet at a bar for drinks and then go to a restaurant. Obviously, since we were both going to drink, we each took Ubers to the bar. I thought the date was going quite well. We had good conversations, we both started doing shots. Now, I hadn't eaten much all day, so the alcohol was really hitting me. By the time we went to the restaurant, I was mildly drunk. At the restaurant, we had some wine. I obviously had too much, because at some point I blacked out. I don't remember the rest of the date or getting home. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover from hell. After crawling out of bed and drinking a few cups of coffee, I checked the credit card app on my phone to see how much the bill was from the restaurant. I was shocked when I saw the amount. I checked my pants that I was still wearing from the night before for the receipt. I saw that I had bought a $1,200 bottle of champagne. I texted the woman and asked her if she had a good time. She just responded that she didn't feel a connection and didn't think we should go out on a second date. I lied to my barber for years, and we never talked ever again. I'm French, and I've been living in a big city in France for a few years, going to my barber almost every month. I always hated small talks and talking about random stuff. Since childhood, I was always introverted and just come in the shop and want my haircut done. The first time I came to that barber, I didn't think I would come back again, so I pretended to not speak French and only be able to speak English to avoid all the small talk. Few years later, he still thinks I'm an American lost in France. He doesn't speak a single word of English. The only few times we interacted, I used Google Translate on my phone. It felt nice not having to talk, but I was always scared he would discover it somehow. I'm now moving countries and he will probably never know about this. Sorry, Mr. Barber, but thanks a lot for the nice haircuts. My husband is working late at the office, but his DoorDash account just ordered dinner for two at the Hilton. So my husband had been pulling these emergency shifts for the last month. He's a projects manager and he says the new launch is just killing his schedule. I've been a supportive wife, keeping his dinner warm and not complaining when he gets home at midnight. Tonight he calls me at 7 p.m. Babe, I'm going to be here until at least 1 a.m. Don't wait up. I just grab a salad from the vending machine. I felt bad for him. I almost sent him an Uber gift card until I heard my phone buzz. We share a DoorDash account because of the DashPass subscription. I see a notification, your order from Sakana Sushi is on the way. Here's the thing. My husband hates sushi. He says that the texture of the raw fish makes him gag. But I click the order details anyway. He ordered a Valentine's Deluxe platter on a random Tuesday, 2 orders of spicy tuna, and this is the kicker. A specific request for 2 sets of chopsticks and extra ginger. The delivery address wasn't his office. It was the Hilton downtown, room 612. I waited 10 minutes and texted him. He replied instantly. Yes, just eating a sad ham sandwich at my desk now. Miss you. The lying is absolutely pathetic. I'm sitting here on our couch looking at the receipt for a romantic sushi dinner for 2, while he tells me he's eating ham at the desk. I checked the office parking lot through our shared Tesla app. His car isn't there. It's at the Hilton. I haven't called him yet. I'm just staring at the delivered status on my screen. It's like my whole marriage was just a placeholder for what is happening right now. I haven't called him yet. I'm just staring at the delivered status on my screen. It's like my whole marriage was just a placeholder for what is happening in room 612 right now. Why is this even a thing? Am I overreacting for not wanting to contribute $3,000 per month to my parents' mortgage, even though they said they pay me back? I'm a 22-year-old female and recently started working full-time. I make about $6,400 per month after taxes and currently live at home. My parents want me to contribute $3,000 per month towards their mortgage for 3 years. They say it's a loan and that they will pay me back for it when I need it. Their reasoning is that they're putting this much towards the mortgage will save them around $150K in interest, and that I'm also financially beneficial for me because I'm living at home and avoiding rent/living expenses. I understand their perspective and I do want to help them. However, $3,000 per month feels overwhelming to me. That's almost half of my take-home pay. And if I contribute for 3 years, they said they would have likely take another 3 years to pay me back. That means my money could be tied up for around 6 years. I kept telling them that I don't feel comfortable with $3,000 because it's a significant portion of my income and I'm giving up access to the money even if they do pay me back eventually. And they're like, why? What other expenses do you have? And making me feel insane for feeling this way. I tried negotiating it down to $2,000 a month because I still wanted to contribute, but also wanted to keep more financial flexibility. My dad say he doesn't want to force me, but he also doesn't want to negotiate. He knows how much I make and feels like this is a reasonable expectation. My parents made me feel selfish almost for not wanting to contribute the amount they expected. The part I'm struggling with is that they are very vague about the repayment. When I suggested writing down the terms because this is a 6-figure amount of money, they got upset and said things like, so you don't trust us, and if you don't want to, then don't. I'm not saying I think they would intentionally not pay me back, I just feel like a written agreement is reasonable for over $100,000. I also feel conflicted because living at home isn't completely free for me emotionally. I appreciate having a place to stay, but there are sacrifices involved, and I want to eventually move out and build my own life. My parents focus on the fact that I don't have many monthly expenses right now, but I feel like I'm also trying to save for my own future and independence. I'm not trying to avoid helping my family, I just don't know if I'm committing $3,000 a month for years is the right decision for me right now. This is almost half of what I make, and it makes me feel incredibly anxious knowing I lose access for it, even if it's temporary. Am I the a-hole for walking out our friend's autistic brother's 45-minute presentation about the Five Nights at Freddy's lore at the house party? So, me and my girlfriend recently attended a friend's 30th birthday party. He had his 23-year-old mildly autistic brother there. Before the party, we were all in a group chat where his brother overtook the entire thing. We were frequently having our phones blown up and coming back to over 200 messages, which made us lose information about the event every time anything was put in there. He was also messaging it way into the night to the point we both just had to mute the chat indefinitely. When we got to the party, the host and his girlfriend opened the door for us. And as always, I was saying hello and giving a hug to my other friends. He completely bulldozed me out of the way and ran up to my girlfriend and shouted a joke in her face and ran off immediately afterwards. Keep in mind, he's never met either of us before. He was also ridiculously drunk by the time we got there. The event started at 4 and we just got there before 7. And he was genuinely so drunk he could barely stand. Everyone was trying to get him to drink water. Following this, we all went to sit outside in their garden, where he then got quite upset that I had sat in his chair, but he didn't say anything to me or anyone else about it. He sat next to my girlfriend and kept muttering things about me under his breath, and barging her chair with her legs so she kept having to move up. Eventually we got up and he immediately ran to get his chair, and then went around to everybody else that was sat down and was going on about his chair to the point he sat at near meltdown. At the same time, he also turned off the music of a playlist we had all added to because he felt overstimulated. Part of the party was that we had all made slideshows/joke presentations running for about 2 to 3 minutes for our friend's birthday. During ours, the brothers in question kept shouting over us. He kept falling on the floor in hysterics, to the point where everybody was purely paying attention to him and just trying to get him to sit there and watch. We could also see the host, it being his 30th birthday, was clearly not having a good time at this point. He's usually the most chill guy in the world, and we knew he loved what we had done, and it sort of just ruined it for everyone. When it got time for the brothers' presentation, he made us all sit in silence, whilst he went and did a costume change, came downstairs in a Freddy Fazbear costume with a printed 30-page double-sided document of the contents of his presentation, and then proceeded to do a 45-minute presentation about the full lore of the Five Nights at Freddy's. About 10 minutes in, me and my girlfriend politely shoved out to go to grab another drink in the shop across the road. We then did not come back in. The host's girlfriend even came out and was sat out with us in their living room and was like, "Yeah, I get it." We also weren't the only ones to leave. We want to say a good half of the people walked out. Any motion this party had was immediately killed and people started leaving straight after this. The whole time, everything anyone did had to revolve around him and make sure he was comfortable. But this in turn made everyone else feel uncomfortable. We didn't have a great time and didn't appreciate being shouted at by the brother once we walked out to get a drink. Am I the a-hole for offering a frozen dinner to an uninvited guest at the dinner party? A couple of times a year I like to throw a nice dinner party for old friends. This time I invited 5 people. 2 were couples and 1 was single. We have all known each other for around 15 years and get together maybe every 3 months. I was making filet mignon and a small lobster tail with 2 sides. I spent over $300 and didn't buy an extra because they are all served 1 each per guest and are expensive. As a surprise to me, the single guest brought along his new girlfriend, who I had not met or known about. I was nice about it, but a bit upset because I only purchased enough meat and lobster tail for the guests who were invited. I talked to the friend who brought the uninvited guest and said I didn't have extra food and the filet mignon and lobster tail isn't something that he can be cut up and divided or spread out between more people, and I said that I had frozen pizza or another frozen dinner I could heat up. He was very upset with me and accused me of not liking his new girlfriend and trying to embarrass them. After his outburst, they left. Was I wrong? Should I have cut up the fillet and lobster tails and spread it out between an extra person instead of offering a frozen meal? Landlord's revenge on me. My family has been renting a house since July 2024. We rented it through a property management company. About a year ago, the only licensed broker and the owner of the company died, so the house owner took over everything. We met, signed a new lease, and talked about what needed done. We became friends and we'd work on some house projects together. In return, he discounted rent for that month. He's an airline captain. He was out of work due to awaiting medical reviews. For April Fools, I thought it would be funny to tell him that we were short on rent, totally forgetting that he was short on money himself. He texts me back, tells me he understands, and to get him the balance ASAP. I remember he was out of work, so I quickly texted him that it was April Fool's prank, and that we have all the money, and I was sending it that day, and that I forgot about his financial situation. He texted me back saying he thought it was funny after the fact, but payback would be coming. Mid-April, I tell him we are going on a cruise out of California in a few days. He said he'd drive by the house when he has a chance, just to check on it. On April the 9th, we drive from Denver to Albuquerque, take Amtrak to LA. We are riding through San Bernardino, excited for our vacation, when I get a text from him. He drove by the house. Someone had jacked up the garage door enough to crawl under, and thinks someone may still be inside. He was waiting for the police to show up. I freak out, tell my wife. Then I don't hear from him for 30 minutes. All I could think about was the stolen electronics, my mountain bikes, my tools, keys for my truck that I parked there. I open up the Ring app, and all I see is the neighbor kid that came over looking to play with my son. Weird. It would show activity by the garage door. Then my wife says, "Remember you pranked him about rent." I didn't want to believe it. Then, a short while later, he texts me, "Payback is a bitch. I deserved it." I tricked my coworker into going home early so he would get fired instead of me. I thought I landed my first job. I didn't have any experience, but they decided to give me a chance. However, after just a few days, I realized they had hired another guy too. Someone with 3 years of experience, and that whichever of us performs worse would get fired after 3 weeks. At the time, I was completely broke. The company was small, just 4 employees plus the 2 of us. One Friday, the 4 of them went out for lunch, leaving me and the other new guy behind. When we got back from our break, the office door was locked because the other 4 hadn't returned yet. My colleague made a joke, saying that maybe they worked shorter hours on Friday. It was 12:30 p.m. I saw my chance and took it. I said, "Yeah, probably let's go home." At first he didn't want to, but in the end he agreed. He walked to the bus stop, but right as the bus arrived, I told him I suddenly remembered I had to buy some groceries at the store next to the stop. As soon as his bus pulled away, I turned around and went straight back to the office. When the boss returned, he asked where the other guy was. I told him that he had gone home because he thought we worked shorter hours on Fridays. In the end, I didn't get the job either. Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin that he needs to lower his standards? I feel like this is a silly post, but I would like some clarity. So I'm 24-year-old male, have always been pretty close with my cousin, 24-year-old male. Due to us being the same age, we were more like brothers. He's an average looking guy, not bad looking at all, but not a model by any means. You'll see when this comes into play. About 3 years ago, one of his best friends from his school kind of blew up as an artist. He's not a huge mainstream artist who sells out arenas, but he has his own fan base that allows him to tour all over the US and sell out shows. His fan base also has a lot of women, and a lot of them are very good looking. He's also in the fashion space, so he goes to events and parties that are also attended by models. I say all of this because my cousin, being one of his best friends, was on the entourage for those 3 years. During this time, my cousin was able to live like a rock star along with his friend, which means a lot of us casual flings with attractive fans, and even sometimes models. He even once invited me out to a show he was doing in Miami, and afterward we went to a party and I was able to witness firsthand how being in the entourage of a popular musician helped him reap benefits. Fast forward to March, he decided that he was going to leave the entourage life because he needed to start his own life. He had no desire to be in the celebrity world and realized that he needed to gain work experience and start his own career. He did online schooling and got his degree while on the road with his friend. Of course, me and him took back up like he never left. This links to the main point of the post. Since he'd been back, we've been to parties, clubs, concerts, etc. At these events, there would be women who found him attractive and tried to talk to him. These women were average good looking, meaning they were your everyday good looking woman, not some model or very beautiful looking woman that you would see all over a musician and his team. He would reject these women politely. Of course, me and the others around us would be like, "Dude, why didn't you go for her?" And he would respond that she wasn't good looking enough. Then he would set his eyes on the hottest woman at the event. He tried to talk to her and get rejected. This would happen multiple times over the next few months, and he always seemed shocked. The past weekend I was with him, and he told me he decided to make Tinder and Hinge profiles. He even showed me his profile and started showing me women that liked him. He paid for the feature that allows to see which like you back. He was disappointed because he didn't think that women were hard enough, and that the 10 out of 10 women that he did like never liked him back. It was at this point I decided that enough was enough and had to tell him the hard truth. I told him that he needed to lower his standards. He looked confused. And I told him that the reason he got to sleep with those models and very attractive women were because he was on the entourage of a popular artist. That many of those women were okay with sleeping with someone on his team, if they couldn't get to him. I told him nothing was wrong with that. It was fun for both. But now that he's back home and he's not riding the coattails of the popular artist, he most likely was not going to get the same caliber of woman that he did when he was on the entourage. This led to an argument and he ended up going home and hasn't spoken to me since. I texted him and called him, but he's always ignoring me right now. Part of me thinks I'm right, but another part feels like maybe I was too harsh. I don't know. Am I the a-hole for this? Am I the a-hole for telling my brother-in-law about his wife's TikTok account where she humiliates him? I, 21-year-old male, found out that my stepsister, 40 years old female, has a TikTok account where she makes videos shitting on her husband, 28-year-old male. It's the most stereotypical account that you could imagine. A lot of videos of her scrubbing a single plate and talking about how she's a stay-at-home wife who has to clean and take care of the kids all day. And when he gets home, he doesn't help at all. Which is bullshit. Because first of all, she doesn't clean the house. Her mother, 63-year-old female, has to go over there twice a week to clean the house because my sister, surprise surprise, sits on her phone all day and doesn't clean. Second of all, their kids who are 11 and 14 are in a before and after school program, due to them living out of town, so they don't get home until their father picks them up when he gets off the work. I've known about it for a year, and I didn't really care because she kept things relatively anonymous, but lately she's been using his name and even posting videos of him on her account, bemoaning how her marriage sucks and how fat he is. And then when the comments agree with her and tell her to leave him, she replies in agreement. I figured at that point, with her violating his privacy, he should be told about the account. So I sent him a text with a link to the account and an apology for not telling him sooner. He confronted her about the things she was saying about him. They had a huge fight, and from what I've heard, they haven't been talking. I feel a bit bad, but I also don't think I did anything wrong. My family is pretty split on the topic. My stepbrother is on my side. My stepmother is on the sister's side. Dad is staying out of it. And extended family is basically 50-50. Am I the a-hole for this? Am I the jerk for not going to my sister's wedding because I didn't want to shave my beard? She told me a couple of months before I had to shave my beard. I have a really nice luscious beard and long hair. I really like the look. I kinda look like a Greek philosopher. My sister told me in private I had to shave it if I wanted to attend her wedding. I told her I'm not doing it. Some arguing ensued, but I kept my ground and I was kinda just moved on. On the day of the wedding, me, my dad and brothers came. My brothers can't grow any facial hair and my dad is clean shaven. We sit down when my sister and her husband take me to the side to tell me I'm not welcome with my beard. I told them I'm not shaving and her husband then asked me to leave, which I did when I went to grab my stuff to leave. When my dad asked what was going on, I told him I got sent away because of my beard. My dad went to my sister's husband and asked if this was true. My dad started making a scene and told me and my brothers to leave as well as my mom. My family is Afghan, and it's a really big deal if a guest me is shown disrespect or no hospitality. My dad has 10 brothers and 2 sisters. He also told them what happened, and some chain reaction happened, where my dad and mom's whole family left. I'm not kidding, over half of the wedding actually left the place. My sister started crying, and her wedding got ruined. It's been 2 days and things are still very hostile. I just came back from Sweden, so I've been kinda out of the loop or what was happening beforehand. Not gonna lie, I just been going on to the training with my brother since. I can't do much else. So we've been going to wrestling, judo and kickboxing to kind of feel regular again, since training is our main distraction. So am I the jerk for this?